All right, this is lesson 77. So in the last lesson, we talked about consecutive integers. In this one, we're going to be talking about consecutive odd and consecutive even integers. So if we're talking about odd numbers, that would be something like 1, 3, 5. So those would be consecutive odd integers. They're skipping every even integer. So they're skipping all the even numbers, but it's still going in order. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, like that. So what is the difference between 1 and 3? Well, if x was 1, 3 would be, let's see, let me write them up and down. So let's say I had 1, 3, 5, 7, like that. Those are 4 consecutive odd integers. If x was 1, then 3 would be x plus 2. 5 would be x plus 4. 7 would be x plus 6. You see how it's going up? Instead of it being x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3, we've got to do x plus 2, 4, 6. All right, so let's look at a practice problem here. So find 3 consecutive even integers such that the sum of the first and the second equals the sum of the third and negative 10. All right, so we need 3 consecutive even integers. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 of them. The first one we're going to name x. Now, if we had x plus 1, if x was 2 and we added 1 to it, we'd have 3. That would not be even. We would have to go up to 4, so that means we're going to have to add 2 each time. So the second one would be x plus 2. And then the third one would be x plus 4. Okay? So there, that's our little chart over here on the side. Now it tells us to find 3 consecutive even integers such that the sum of the first and the second, so the sum of the first and the second, the first is x, and we're going to add that to the second, which is x plus 2. So there's our sum of the first and the second, equals the sum of the third and negative 10. So equals the third, which is x plus 4, and negative 10. Okay, so there's our equation. Now we're just going to add like terms. So we get 2x plus 2 equals x, these are like terms, minus 6. Positive 4, negative 10. X negative 6. Now we're going to get our x's together. And we get 2x minus 1x will be x plus 2 equals negative 6. Now we're going to subtract 2. And we get x equals negative 8. Alright, that's not the answer because it's asking us for 3 consecutive even integers. Negative 8 is an even integer. So if x is negative 8, negative 8 plus 2 is going to be negative 6. Negative 6 plus, or negative 8 plus 4 would be negative 4. So it's going to be negative 8, negative 6, negative 4. That's the answer. All right, let's try another one. Find 3 consecutive odd integers. So we know we're going to have 3 odds. So our first, our second, and our third. The first one is going to be x. The next one's going to be x plus 2. And the third one is going to be x plus 4. To keep them all odd. Alright. Find 3 consecutive odd integers such that the sum of the first and the third, sum of the first and the third, so the first, that's x, and the third, x plus 4. Okay, so that means the sum of the first and the third. Right, that part's not too bad. Is 7 greater than the second decreased by 18? Okay. We're just going to go ahead and put our equal sign. We know this is 7 greater, so we're going to have to add 7 on this side, or subtract 7 on this side, one of the two. We're just going to forget about that 7 greater, and we're going to do the rest of it and then add it in after. All right, 7 greater than the second decreased by 18. The second is x plus 2, and we got to decrease that by 18, so minus 18. All right, and if this is 7 greater than this, we can add 7 to that side, and now they're equal. All right, so now we just have to work out this problem. So we're going to combine like terms. X and x is 2x plus 4 equals, we only got one x over here, x. Then we got plus 2 minus 18 and plus 7. Let's see, that would be, this will be negative 11, and then that would be negative 9. All right, and now we need to get our x's on the same side. Go, so we get x plus 4 equals negative 9. And then we're going to do minus 4, and we're going to get x equals negative 13. So now we got x equals negative 13. Now we're going to have to, that's not the answer, we have to make it into odd consecutive integers. So if x is negative 13, that's our first one. Negative 13 plus 2 would be negative 11. And negative 13 plus 4 would be negative 9. So it's negative 13, negative 11, and negative 9. All right, we'll do one more example. Okay, so one more example. Find 4 consecutive odd integers. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one's going to be called x, and then we're going to have x plus 2, and then x plus 4, and then x plus 6. Okay, so it asks us to find 4 consecutive odd integers such that the sum of the first and the fourth, sum of first and fourth is 25 greater, is 25 greater than what? The opposite of the third. Okay. All right, so we need the sum of the first and the fourth. The first would be x, plus, sum means we're going to add them, the fourth would be x plus 6. Okay, is 25 greater, so we're going to subtract 25, because this is 25 more than whatever this is, then the opposite of the third. Well, if the third is x plus 4, the opposite of that would mean we would have to multiply it times negative 1. Negative 1 times x will be negative x. Negative 1 times positive 4 would be negative 4. So we just change the signs in there. If it says the opposite of it, you're going to change the sign of on the x and on the number. All right, now we're just going to put this together. So first we'll combine like terms there. So we got 2x. Then we got positive 6, negative 25. That's going to be negative 26, negative 19 equals negative x minus 4. All right, now we're going to add x on both sides. Got to put those together. We get 3x minus 19 equals negative 4. Then we're going to add 19. And we're going to get 3x equals 19 minus 4 will be 15. All right, so 3x is 15. So divide by 3. And we get x equals 5. That's not the answer yet. Okay, so if x equals 5, that means the first integer is 5. So that would be 1 is 5. 2 would be 5 plus 2, so 7. 3 would be 5 plus 4, so 9, and 4 would be 5 plus 6, 11. Now, if we wanted to put this into here, the sum of the first and the fourth. So the sum of the first would be 5, and the fourth would be 11. So 5 plus 11, the sum of the first and the fourth, is 25 greater, so minus 25 equals, then the opposite of the third. Third was 9, so negative 9. And let's see if that works. We're going to put that together. So 5 and 11 would be 16 minus 25 equals negative 9. 16 minus 25 is negative 9. So there we go. That proves that that worked. Okay, so 77B is fraction and decimal word problems. Alright, so fraction and decimal word problems, we use the patterns. Fraction is times of equals is, or decimal would be times of equals is. That's pretty straightforward. Whenever you see of, you multiply, and then whenever you see is, you write equals. It's helpful to write before and after diagrams. Alright, so the question says, Lopez used a 5-iron, but the ball covered only 4/5 of the required distance. If she hit the ball 112 yards, what is the required distance? Okay, so she hit the ball 112 yards. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to draw my diagram as a square because that, you guys know I like to do that. And this is going to be our required distance that we're trying to find out. What's the required distance of the whole thing? And she hit it 4/5 of that. So we're going to divide it right there. And we're going to call this 4/5. And this is 1/5 over here. And we know that 4/5 that she hit was 112 yards. Okay, we have to figure out what 5/5 is, right? Because we want the whole thing. So 4/5 is 112, what would be 5/5? Now, let's see. The easiest way to do that would be to figure out what 1/5 is. So we could say, well, that's going to leave us with a fraction. Let's go ahead and do that. So 1/5 be 112 divided by, okay, so 4/5 is 112, and then we want 1/5. So we're gonna have to divide that into 4 pieces. 112 divided by 4, because we want to know what 1/5 is. If we know what 4/5 is, 4 of them is 112 divided by 4 to get 1 of them. All right, so, and then we're also looking for 5/5 would be our answer. All right, so let's see, that will go 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 4 is 32. So 28 is 1/5. Now to find 5/5 or 1 whole, we can add these two together, or we can multiply that times 5. 28 times 5. Times 5 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10. 14. It should be 140 would be the answer. And if we added together our 4/5 and our 1/5, we should get 140. So 8, 9, 10, carry the 1, and that will be 140. 112 plus 28, 2, 3, 4, 140. Alright, so make a diagram, figure out what one part of it is to figure out the whole. Let's try another example problem. Now they draw circle diagrams, but I personally like the square diagrams better. Alright, McAbby guessed that the total was 30.24, but this was 7.2 times the total. What was the total? Okay, so let's see, 7.2 times the total. So that means that we got to draw, see, if we were going to do this, I would draw, let's see, we don't want to draw 7 boxes. So we're just going to draw a big box, and we're going to say this is the total, and this is the total times 7.2. 7.2 times the total. So on this one, and she guessed 30.24. And 30.24 was 7.2 times the total. So that's this whole thing. Is 7.2 times the total. So we're just going to have to say 30.24 divided by 7.2 to get the answer. Another way to do this would just be to say 30.24 is 7.2 times what number? So 30.24 is the total times 7.2 times the total. So then we have to divide by 7.2, divide by 7.2. And you can use a calculator on these when it gets to these big dividing ones. And I left all of my calculators in the car. Let me pull out my phone and do it on there. Alright, let's see here. So calculator, we're going to say 30.24 divided by 7.2 equals 4.2. So our total is 4.2. And if I multiply this 4.2 times 7.2, I'm going to get 30.4. Alright. See, is there another one? Yes. 3/4 of the tickets had been sold, and there were 420 tickets left. How many tickets were printed? Alright, so this is more like one that we can do in a diagram. We're going to cut it into fourths. Okay, and then 3/4. So this is 3/4, and this is 1/4. Okay, and it said 3/4 of the tickets have been sold. That's the ones that are sold. And there are 420 tickets left. These are the ones that are left. And there are 420 right there. How many tickets were printed? So they want to know the total number of tickets. Okay. So we know that 1/4 equals 420. And we're trying to find 4/4. So all we have to do is multiply that times 4. Because if we did 1/4, 420, and then we added another 420 right here, and another 420 here, and another 420 there. See how we have 4 420s? Okay, so we're just going to multiply it times 4. So 420 times 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 4 is 16. We would have 1,680 tickets were sold. Another way to do that would be to word it and then write it as a equation. So we could say, let's see, 420 is 1/4 of what number? So 420 is 1/4 of the total. So then we would say, since it's times 1/4, we could actually do total times 1/4. 1/4 of the total. And then we would flip and multiply times 4 over 1. And times 4 over 1, basically. And that would get us the same answer, because 4 times 420 is 1680. So, same thing. The diagram, I think, is the most helpful part. Alright, so now try to do the practice problems and pause the video and then come back and see if you got them right. Alright, this is practice for lesson 77. Okay, A says find three consecutive even integers such that the sum of the first and the third equals the sum of the second and negative 14. Alright, so we're going to say first, second, third, and they're even integers. So the first we're going to name x, the second we're going to name x plus 2, and the third we're going to name x plus 4 to keep them as even integers. Find three consecutive even integers such that the sum of the first and the third, okay, so first is x, and we're going to have to add x to the third, so plus x plus 4. The sum of the first and the third equals the sum of the second and negative 14, so equals the second, x plus 2, and negative 14. Okay, so minus 14. Now we'll just work this out. So we've got x and x. That will be 2x plus 4 equals x. And then we have positive 2, negative 14 will be negative 12. Alright, now we've got to get our x's together. So subtract x on both sides. And we're going to have x plus 4 equals negative 12. Now we do minus 4 on both sides. And we're going to have x equals negative 16. That's not the answer. If x is negative 16, we need to go from there. So the first would be negative 16. The second would be negative 16 plus 2, so negative 14. And then the third would be the next even integer up from that, or negative 16 plus 4, so negative 12. And that is practice A on 77. Okay. Let's try B. Okay. B says the golfer used a 6-iron, but the ball traveled only 5/6 of the required distance. If the golfer hit the ball 180 yards, what was the required distance? All right, so we're going to draw a diagram. Okay, there's our required distance. And the golfer hit the ball but only traveled 5/6. So it went pretty far. It went almost all the way, not quite. 5/6 of the required distance. That means we're left with 1/6 over here that it didn't make it. The golfer hit the ball 180 yards. So 5/6 is 180 yards. So if we worded this, we could say 180 is 5/6 of what number? Is 5/6 of the required distance. So we would just divide by 5/6 by flipping and multiplying. Or we could write it out this way. We could say 5/6 equals 180. And then we could try to find 1/6. And then we could try to find 6/6. Because what we're trying to find is the whole thing. Is the required distance. Okay, so let's try it this way. So 5/6 is 180. 1/6, we would just have to divide by 5 to find 1/6. So we'd say 180, right? Because we have 5 of them here. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chunks right there. Equals 180. So to find what one chunk would equal, we divide it by 5. Four times, let's see. Whoops, that can't be right. Yeah, 3 times 5 is 15 minus 3. Okay, 6 times 5 is 30. So 1/6 is 36. And then to find So each one of these is 36, 36, 36, 36, 36, 36. See how that works? So now we have to multiply it times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 6. 36 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 3 is 18, 19, 20, 21. So 216 should be the required distance. 216 should be the answer to practice B, 216 yards. Okay, see how that diagram can really be helpful? Let's see how it would work if we did it the other way with the wording. So we said 180 is 5/6 of what number? So 180 is the total distance times 5/6, or 5/6 of what number? That's kind of how you guys are used to writing it. But if we flip it around and we say what number times 5/6, that makes it easier because then we can do 6 over 5 times 6 over 5. And these cancel, and then we're going to put that over 1, and then we have to, let's see, we can divide right there. So we would have to say 180 divided by 5 would be 36, and then we say 6 times 36 is 216 equals that number. See how we did the exact same thing? We divided by 5, and then we multiplied by 6. The diagram I like better because it helps me not get confused. All right, practice C. 7/8 of the tickets had been sold, and there were 560 tickets left. How many tickets were printed? All right, so we're going to draw our diagram, and we're going to divide this into 8s. So here's in half, fourths. Now we've got 8s. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so, but only 7/8 of the tickets were sold. We can kind of, let me start that over again. All right. A nice big diagram. One, two, three. Oh, that looks terrible. You guys. All right, we're just gonna mark it off like that. Okay, so this is 7/8. This will be 1/8 over here. All right, now it says that 7/8 of the tickets have been sold. There were 560 tickets left. All right, so that means this part is 560. These are sold. These are left. Okay, these are the ones that are sold. How many tickets were printed? They want to know the total that were printed. Okay, we already sold 7/8 of them. 1/8 is left. So 1/8 equals 560. And we need to know, let's see, there are 7/8 left in here, so that's another 560, and 560, and 560, and 560, and another 560. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 560 in here, and 560 in there. So this part, the 7/8, contains 7 more 560s for a total of 8 of them. So if 1/8 is 560, we need to multiply times 8 to find out what 8/8 is. So we take 560 and we multiply that times 8. 6 times 8 is 48. 8 times 5 is 40, 44. So that one should be, the answer should be 4,480. Would be 4,480, which would be the same as 8/8. Okay, If we did this by turning it into a number sentence, we could say 560 is 1/8 of the total. Okay, so this is times 1/8. So we got to flip and multiply. So times 8 over 1 times 8 over 1. So we just took our 560 and we multiply it times 8, and we get 4480 equals total. So it's all canceled. All right. So you can do it either way and you're going to come up with the same answer. Personally, I like the diagram better because it helps me not get confused. And your diagram doesn't have to be that big, whatever it is that you can write to make sure that you understand it. All right, that's it for lesson 77. Okay, this is lesson 78, rational equations. All right, so rational equations, these are going to be crazy looking equations, but they're really pretty easy. I'll do an example one here. So y over 2 plus 1/4 equals y over 6. All right, so what we have to do is find a common denominator. The common denominator between 2, 4, and 6 would be 12. We could say 2 goes into 12, 4 goes into 12, and 6 goes into 12. Now this is still going to be an equal equation if we can multiply everything in this equation by some number and it doesn't change the value. So we're going to multiply everything in this equation times 12. And basically it's 12 over 1. All right, so right here we can cancel and we would get 6. And now we got to do 6 times y. So we got 6y. And that gets rid of this entire fraction. See how that fraction goes away because we canceled? So that was a 2, and then we multiplied it times 12. This one, we can cancel 3 up there, and then we have a 1 down here. So 3 times 1 is 3. All right, and here we can cancel, and we get a 2 times y, which would be 2y. Now we can solve for y. We're going to do minus 6y here and minus 6y here, and we're going to get 3 equals negative 4y, and then we just divide by negative 4, and we're going to get y equals negative 3/4. And that's the answer to that one. I'll do another example. 3y, actually, I skipped an example. Let's see. And I don't like that color pen. I'm going to go to purple. All right. 2x over 7 minus 3x over 2 equals 1/3. So first thing we have to do is find a common denominator between 7, 2, and 3. 3 times 7 is 21, but that won't go into 2. 6 times 7 is 42, so we're going to have to use 42. All right, so we're going to multiply each one of these times 42. Okay, right here we can cancel. 6 times 7 is 42. So we cross that out and we make a 6. Then we multiply our 6 times our 2. Will be 12x. Okay, and we don't have a fraction anymore because we canceled that bottom. Then we multiply that times that. All right, here, 2 goes into 42 21 times. Now we have to multiply 21 times 3, which would be 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 63x. Okay, and then 42 divided by 3 is 14. Okay, so that goes 14 times, and 14 times 1 is just 14. All right, now we can put our x's together. 63 minus 12 will be 51. So we get negative 51x equals 14. And then we have to divide by negative 51. And we get x equals negative 14 over 51. Can't reduce that at all. So that's the answer to that one. I hate when things come out like that. You should make it come out as a whole number, but they usually don't. All right, I'm going to try 78.3. All right, so this one says 3y over 2 plus, now this one has a big top here, 8 minus 4y over 7. And then this side is just a 3. I'm going to put that over 1 just so I don't get confused. I don't like when it's just like that. That makes life confusing. So if it's just a 3, I'm going to write 3 over 1. Okay, now we need a common denominator between 2 and 7 and 1. 2 and 7, that would just be 14. So we're going to multiply all these times 14. Okay, right here we can cancel and we get 7. So then we do 7 times 3. It's 21. Oh, we don't need a fraction anymore because we got rid of that. So 21y. All right, here we can do 7 2 times. And we have to multiply it by this whole thing. So 2 times 8 is 16. And then 2 times 4 is 8y. Okay, here we can't do anything because that's over 1, so we need to do 14 times 3. 14 times 3, 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 1 is 3, 4, 42 equals 42. Okay, now we can combine our like terms right there and right there. 21 minus 8 would be, let's see, 21 minus 8. 8, 9, 10, 11, 13. So 13y plus 16 equals 42. Now we got to do minus 16, minus 16. And we get 13y equals 12 minus 6 would be 6. And then 3 minus 1 would be 2, 26. Ooh, this one comes out even. Divided by 13, divided by 13. Y equals 2. Hooray, an even number. A nice small one. I like when it comes out like that. That one was y equals 2. Alright, let's try another one. These really aren't that hard. Alright, so let's try x plus 1 over 4. Minus 3 over 2 equals 2x minus 9 over 10. Okay, so first thing we have to do is find a common denominator between 4, 2, and 10. And that's going to be 20. Well, 4 times 5 is 20, 2 times 10 is 20, and 10 times 2 is 20. Alright, so we're going to multiply everything in here times 20. If we do that, we're going to say 4 times 5 is 20. Alright, so now we have to multiply everything up here times 5. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 1 is 5. Right here, can we cancel on this 20? Yes, we can. We can make that be 10. So then we multiply right there. 10 times 3 is 30. And that's negative 30 because that's negative 3. All right, here we can cancel and we get 2. We have to multiply it times everything up here. So 2 times 2 is 4. And that would be plus 4x. And then 2 times negative 9 will be 9 9's 18, negative 18. Okay. Where'd our equal sign go? Right there. Whoopsie. Okay. Forgot I didn't bring the equal sign down. Okay, now we're going to combine like terms. We don't have any like terms here, so we're going to do 5x. And then we have negative 30 and positive 5, which would be negative 25, equals 4x minus 18. Now we're going to put our x's together. And we're going to get x minus 25 equals negative 18. So now we're going to do plus 25, plus 25. So basically that's 25 minus 18. 7 7 is 14, 7 and 8 is 15, and it will be 7. So x equals 7. Yep, x equals 7. Ta-da! Alright, so basically you're just finding a common denominator and then working out the problem. Okay, do the practice problems and I'll meet you back here to show you the answers. Alright, practice problems for lesson 78. A is z, I hate when it's z because it always looks like a 2, over 4 minus 1/3 equals z over 2. Okay, so we have to find a common denominator between 2 and 3 and 4, which will be 12. Put this a over here. So I'm going to multiply all of these times 12. Okay, so here I can cancel, basically, because I'm doing 12 over 1. So that would be 3 times 4 is 12. So that's 3 times z would be 3z. Here, 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 1 is 4, so minus 4. And here would be 6 equals 6z. All right, now we got to put our z's together. Negative 4 equals 3z. And then we just divide by 3, and we would get z equals negative 4 over 3. And that is A. Okay, B. X, wait, it's Y. Let's see. Okay, Y plus 2 over 3 minus 5 over 2 equals 2y minus 4 over 8. All right, so first thing we have to do is find a common denominator between 8 and 2 and 3. 3 times 8 is 24. I think that's the best we're going to get. So we're going to have to multiply all this times 24. Okay, 3 times 8 is 24, so we can cancel that and we get an 8. And remember, we're multiplying the whole thing, so 8 times y is 8y. 8 times 2 is 16. Right here we can cancel and we'll get a 12, and 12 times 5 is 60. Here we can cancel and get a 3, and we're multiplying times all of that. 3 times 2 is 6y. 3 times 4 is 12. Remember, I'm keeping that negative there. Okay, now we're going to combine our like terms. So we get 8y, and then 60 minus 16, or negative 60, and positive 16. That will be 44, negative 44. 6y minus 12. All right, now we're going to get our y's together. And we're going to have 2y minus 44 equals negative 12. So then we got a plus 44. And I'm running out of room. That would be, let's see, 44 minus 12. 32. So 2y equals 32. Then we're going to divide by 2. And we're going to get y equals, let's see, that would be 16, I think. Yep, 16 is the answer. So B is y equals 16. Alright, those look hard, but they're really not that hard. You just find your common denominator, and then you cancel, multiply everything times the common denominator to get rid of the fraction. And then you just solve for your variable. Alright,